Hi, I'm Vivian, and I'm a bibliophile. I love books. I escape into them. I have visited thousands of worlds and galaxies and countless lives I've lived. I just love books, and not just fiction. I love nonfiction. I love how-tos. I collect certain books, cookbooks. I had to give away more than half of them because there's a certain points. I kept all my favorites, and it's still a lot of books. And I wanted to share it. And when I read a book, nothing gets done. I have to be very careful of that. So I have to be able to, okay, just allow myself little spurts. Because right now I've got too much going on. When I was injured or hurt and I can't do anything, I would read. I could read, lay in bed and read books. But my favorite thing is Overdrive, audiobooks. There's my library, public library, free. I think everyone's got that in the country. Check out if your library offers that. And you can download ebooks or audiobooks. And I download the audiobook to my little fake phone that I'm recording with actually right now. But I listen to it on there. And so far this year, last year I had over 200 books. Way over. I need to look at that. But it was crazy. And not all of them were audiobooks. Some of them were actual books I read. But most of them, I like Overdrive, which allows me through my public library system to get on there and download books. And then I can listen to them. I put the earbuds on and I enjoy it. I can do that. Some people can't. My husband cannot listen to audiobooks and drive. I can drive. I mean, when I take long trips, I got all sorts of audiobooks. And back in the day, I was, checking out CDs, the audio CDs, and listening, changing out CDs while I'm going down the interstates. So having them all downloaded onto my tablet really makes it's a lot safer. I can plug it. I can put the audio jack onto that, or I can Bluetooth it. I like to do the audio jack better because I don't like to Bluetooth everything. So I do that. And so far this year is 25 books. 2 of them were actual books I read. The rest of them have all been audiobooks. So some of them will take a day to listen to, just doing, it doesn't take long. Some are much more longer books, bigger books. And when I find an author I like, I just see what else Overdrive has. Sadly, Overdrive doesn't have, like the Dresden Files, it doesn't have all the Dresden books. So I saw them at the thrift store. I couldn't resist. I was like, okay, I'll buy that. And I'm really enjoying the humor, which comes through on either way, whether you read it or listen to it. So I just wanted to share that that's something I love books. And I'm trying to share that love. I've raised both my kids to be readers. And that's how I got my son audiobooks. When he was young, if it didn't come easy to him, he didn't want to do it. And math and science and all that stuff, he was into it. But reading for some reason, and that's typical. A lot of boys, the reading part, girls develop that first. Boys develop math. That's just the way we're wired. There's exceptions, but for the most part, boys have a little bit more difficulty reading than girls do, and girls have more difficulty with math concepts than boys do at the early ages. By 3rd and 5th grade, they balance out, both of them. But a lot of times they're being forced to do stuff that they're not comfortable. It's just that part of the brain's just not developed. It's nothing deficient. So he decided he didn't like books. He loved being read to. We've always read to our kids. And my husband was reading Lord of the Rings to him at that in preschool and stuff. And we were into that kind of stuff long before that Peter Jackson version came out in theaters. But we went on a trip, and there was this big bargain book warehouse. We had to stop on vacation, of course. Yeah, we had to stop bookstore. And they had Brian Jake's Redwall series. And even the paper, the small paperbacks, and they were thick. They were 400 pages each, more. So they had I picked up 13, 14 of them, but they didn't have the first two books in the series. Red Wall and Mossflower, I think, were the first two, but they didn't have it. So I got that, and I was like, oh, the library actually had them on cassette tapes. That's how long ago this was. So got the cassette tapes, and that was a godsend. I didn't plan it this way. It just worked out that way because the bookstore didn't have those first two. But I had the rest of the series. But I thought, well, we're going to try to do the series the way the author wrote the books. So I got the audiobooks because my son enjoyed that. And that was really great because the characters, they all had different types of accents, British type accents, Yorkshire, Cockney, London, the different characters. The shrews talked a different way, then the moles talked a different way. But they're all speaking English, and the author wrote things out phonetically, how they were actually pronouncing their words. So listening to it was a real joy. So he listened to the first two. I mean, he went through it. He was having such a good time. He was in third grade at the time. And at this time, I knew he could read. We started homeschooling in second grade. But by the time he finished public school, kindergarten, and first grade, he hated any sort of reading assignment. He hated it. And we really worked on that in the second grade year to get him up to speed. But the third grade was he was really struggling because he just had it in his head. He hated reading. Even though I tested him, he scored above. But he listened to the audiobooks. And he listened to it's listen to the first one, and I got the second one, and he listened to it. And then the third one, he's like, Mom, where's the audio? Where's the tapes for the third one? I said, we got the book. And he's like, I'm not reading. It's 400 pages. I'm not reading that. It's too much. I said, it's really good. At that time, I was reading everything ahead of my kids and making sure that I knew what they were reading before they did. And yeah, I was censoring. That's a parent's job. Even for high schoolers, there were certain books that came out. If Twilight came out, no, another topic. Anyway. So he fought me. I was like, no, you were really there were certain characters that were coming. I was like, you need to find out about this character. And there were more rabbits. The hares were hilarious. What? Anyway, so he was like, there's the book. And he started opening it. And it was a struggle, but he beat it. And that first book took him 2 weeks to read. By the end of that calendar year, I was having to bar him from reading. He would read those 400-page books in 2 days and not get anything else done. So I was like, no, you got to stop reading and you got to work on this other thing. So he went from taking 2 weeks to read 400 pages while doing his schoolwork, while doing other stuff, and then just devouring them in 2 days. And then was having to go out and buy the next one, and then going to the library and doing that and trying to find deals on the books because they got expensive. But audiobooks, that's a great way to start. Our first audiobook that we listened to as a family was The Swiss Family Robinson. And my son, he actually said, Mom, you know that the movie is better. I was like, oh, son, it is rare, very, very rare for the movie to be better than the book. The book will always have more. And by the time we finished chapter 1 in the audiobook of Swiss Family Robinson, he was like, that's amazing. The little kid wasn't annoying. There were four kids, not 3 sons. There was 4 sons in the family. There was so much more. And the treehouse was cool. The cave was so much better. It wasn't even in the movies. The cave was fantastic. So by the first chapter, he was like, we got to listen to this with Dad. So I had to listen to it over with Dad. And that's when we learned that Dad couldn't drive and listen. But that's another story. But that that was a real blessing. And last year when I got the grandsons reading, I actually bought 2 copies of the same version. There's a lot of versions of Swiss Family Robinson, and rewarded them with a treat at a halfway point and the end point of the book. I would take them out to wherever they wanted to go out to eat and do whatever they wanted to do afterwards. So I actually had my grandson win an award last year as the best reader in his classroom. And when he brought the award up, we went to the ceremony. At the end of it, he walked up and he's holding that award ceremony that he was the best reader in his classroom. And he's holding it up to me and goes, "Grandma, it's your fault I got this." That was like the best. But he was seriously like, "It's your fault I got this. I was reading that book in the class, and the teacher saw me reading it all the spare time, so it's your fault." Like, yes, I did something right. But I'm a bibliophile. I love books. I love sharing the gift of books. And the movies that were better, Blade Runner is way better than the book. Do Androids Dream of Electronic Sheep or something? That's the title of the book that it's based on. The movie was way better. Harrison Ford did it. Even though the movie wasn't all that great, it was way better than the book. The Count of Monte Cristo, the newest movie release of that, is actually, in some ways, I like it better. I like the way it ended. The book took over 30 years. The movie did 15. It cut it and changed the ending a little bit. So that was pretty good, but the book is still it's really, really good. Dumas is just a character you got to read. He's a character in himself. He really tried to live out the life of the Count too. So it's interesting to go back into the biographies, and some biographies you don't want to know. I was sad to learn about Dickens. Love his books, but he was not all that nice a guy. Let's see what else. Oh, the bathroom project. I had to put a shelf in there for books and magazines. Because not just sitting on the toilet, but in the bathtub, I like to read. Images, right? So I have books everywhere, and I like it that way. I like having my cookbooks are near where I'm going to sit down and plan meals. So they're not with the rest of the bookshelves. Bookshelves in the living room, bookshelves in the spare room, bookshelves in the bathrooms. I love books. I'm a bibliophile, and I'm proud of it. It's something I share. I love to give books as presents. I've given out countless Proper Care and Feeding of Husbands by Dr. Laura Schlesinger. I want to do a reading of that book online. I'm waiting for permission on that. I'm trying to do book giveaways, and I can't seem to, please check out the link and enter for that book. The drawing is supposed to be tomorrow. So I just wanted to talk about Overdrive and my passion for books and just a love of books. So, do you like to read? Have you tried out audiobooks? They're expensive. That's why I highly recommend joining. If you don't already have a library card, getting one, and then seeing if they have such a service as Overdrive. But now they also have these little MP3 players, so the books aren't on. You don't have to worry about. Because I used to repair CDs, audio CDs that I got from the libraries that someone had either just dirtied, had something on their hands and got stuff, and I would clean them up. I got a scratch repair thing that I also did and repaired, and the ones that didn't repair, I would make sure the librarians knew that, I tried, but that one was not savable. They need to get another one of that disc. So you can get that, but they have their little audio things, and you just put your earbuds on or figure out put it to a speaker so you can listen to it. And then they have those now. So if you can't, don't have time to read, I've got a friend who has problems. She has it's not dyslexia, it's something else, but it's difficult for her to read, and she compensates with audio. So that makes a big difference. And I've got a couple of friends who are blind, and of course they do audiobooks and Braille. So there's something to check out, and it's a really good service, and you don't have to ever worry about late fees or returning them. And I just get an email when say, oh, I just have it automatically check out the books I have on hold, that I place holds on the wait list for. So give it a check, check it out. Let me know what you think. If you hadn't tried it, if you have tried it, let me know what you think of those kind of services. And I hope you like books too. I just can't imagine not. It's something I've enjoyed since childhood. So be a blessing and be blessed.